She is no bigger than a toddler, but her silence says everything. A baby gorilla, not more than 2 months old, clings tightly to a body that no longer moves. Her mother's fur is stiff, her chest still. Flies buzz in the jungle heat. The baby doesn't cry, she just holds on, like letting go would mean losing everything. And she already has. Rangers from Virunga National Park arrived too late to stop the poachers. The trackers had heard the gunshot hours earlier, but the terrain is cruel. When they finally push through the thicket, machetes cutting away branches, they find a scene that makes hardened men freeze. One of them steps forward, a young ranger named Andre. He kneels slowly, speaks in soft Swahili, and waits. The baby doesn't move. Her fingers curl tighter into her mother's fur. Andre lays down his rifle, takes off his gloves. Inch by inch he slides closer. It's not protocol, it's not safe, but it's human. When he finally touches her shoulder, she trembles, but she doesn't pull away. Instead, she leans into him. And just like that, her life begins again. They name her Ndakasi, the lucky one. But luck has nothing to do with what comes next. At the Gorilla Orphan Center in Rumangabo, the odds are stacked against her. Orphaned gorillas don't survive, not usually. They stop eating, stop bonding. Their grief is so deep, it turns physical. But Ndakasi isn't alone. Andre is never far. He wakes up every 3 hours to feed her. He learns the sounds she makes in her sleep. She learns to recognize his smell, the cadence of his laugh, the warmth of his chest. At night, she curls into the crook of his arm and falls asleep to the rhythm of his breathing. In the wild, she would have been learning to forage, to climb, to navigate danger by watching her mother. Instead, she watches Andre. And somehow, impossibly, she begins to recover. The weeks pass. Her appetite returns. Her eyes brighten. She reaches for things, food, toys, his beard. One morning, she wraps both arms around his neck and doesn't let go for 10 minutes. That's when they know. She's not just surviving. She's attaching, trusting, healing. As she grows, so does her personality. She's playful, curious, a little mischievous. She mimics the rangers, their gestures, their stances, even their smirks. The other orphaned gorillas are cautious around humans. Ndakasi? She climbs into laps. She becomes a favorite. Not because she's famous yet, but because she feels like family. Everyone who meets her says the same thing. She looks at you like she already knows you. Then, one ordinary afternoon, a ranger leans in for a selfie with another gorilla. As he lifts his phone, Ndakasi appears in the background. And then she smiles. Not a grimace, not a fluke. A full, goofy, tilted head, cheeky grin, like she knows exactly what a selfie is. They post it, laugh, move on. But by morning, the internet has lost its mind. That image, one ranger, one photobombing gorilla, both grinning like old friends, explodes across every platform. This can't be real, people say. She's smiling like a person. But she is real. And her story is just getting started. They only meant to take one photo. A casual snap, a ranger, a gorilla in the background, and a moment of quiet joy in a world too often full of grief. But what they captured was lightning, a selfie with a gorilla, smiling. And not just smiling, posing. The image spreads like fire. News stations call it the happiest gorilla alive. Memes explode. Headlines read, "When your bestie's also your bodyguard," and "How is she this iconic?" People around the world share the photo with a strange kind of reverence. Not because it's funny, though it is, but because it feels real, unstaged, pure, a glimpse of something unbreakable between a wild soul and the man who saved her. Her name, Ndakasi, becomes synonymous with love. But behind the viral moment is a daily life built on work, healing, and constant challenge. At the Senkwekwe Center, where she and other rescued gorillas live, every day is part miracle and part marathon. Poachers still operate outside the park. Disease always lurks. and orphaned gorillas like Ndakasi require round-the-clock care. But Ndakasi thrives. She learns how to forage again, not from her mother, but by watching older gorillas at the sanctuary. She mimics the rangers who raise her, copying the way they walk, even how they cross their arms during security briefings. It becomes a running joke. "Look," one ranger laughs, "she thinks she's one of us." And maybe she is. She naps on hammocks, steals fruit from backpacks, even tugs on walkie-talkies to mimic the static. She grows strong, smart, joyful. She dances in the rain. She play wrestles with other orphans. Her belly laugh, a deep, chesty chuff, echoes through the compound. But even as her fame grows, so does the pressure. Tourists start to ask if they can visit her. Documentarians pitch stories. Sponsors send money with conditions. And conservationists, many of whom love her, begin to raise a difficult question. Can a gorilla raised this close to humans ever return to the wild? The debate isn't new, but Ndakasi's fame brings it to a boil. Some argue she's too socialized, that she sees humans not as a threat, but as companions. Others say her case is unique, and that love isn't a weakness, but her strength. Inside the center, the rangers keep their focus: care, consistency, compassion. Andre, her guardian, refuses to treat her like a mascot. She's not here to entertain, he says. She's here to live. But even he wonders. Late at night, he watches her from afar as she nestles among leaves and blankets. She looks peaceful, but sometimes she looks lonely. The rangers begin gently easing her into deeper forest interactions, short treks with other orphans, time spent out of view of people, listening to the wild sounds of her home. She does well, at first. But then something changes. She starts to eat less, plays less, becomes unusually quiet. Her belly, once full and round, looks sunken. A vet examines her and frowns. Blood work is taken. Results are murky. She has no visible wounds, no injury, but something is wrong. It could be stress, the vet says. It could be more. Within 48 hours, she's quarantined, not as punishment, but protection, for herself, for others. The separation from Andre is immediate. He's not allowed inside the enclosure, so he sends in his sweatshirt. It still smells like him. She sleeps with it in her arms. From his window across the compound, he watches her through binoculars. She lies curled on the floor, unmoving. He calls her name softly through the screen. No response. Days pass, no improvement. Her vitals drop. Her team does everything they can. Fluids, rest, special food. But she won't eat. The gorilla who made the world laugh is fading, and no one knows why. Then, on the 7th night, something happens. As the staff reviews her monitor footage, one nurse gasps. She rewinds. Rewinds again. There, on the camera, Ndakasi sits up slowly. She looks toward the wall. She reaches out her hand and presses it gently to the glass. The direction is unmistakable. She's reaching toward his room. The sanctuary is silent at dawn. Not because the animals are sleeping, but because everyone is watching. Inside the quarantine unit, Ndakasi lies still, her arms wrapped around a faded sweatshirt. It smells like home. It smells like him. She hasn't eaten in 3 days. Her weight is dropping. Her eyes are dull. The joyful gorilla who once mimicked rangers and made the world laugh now curls into herself as if trying to disappear. And no one knows why. The blood work shows mild inflammation, slight dehydration, but nothing definitive. No parasites, no signs of injury, no infection. The medical charts are confusing. The symptoms are vague. The conclusion: stress, trauma, withdrawal. She's not sick, one vet says quietly. She's shutting down. Andre stands outside the gate, gripping the mesh with both hands. He hasn't slept. He hasn't shaved. He hasn't stopped trying. He speaks to her through the barrier, softly, calmly, calls her name in the exact voice she's heard since the day she was pulled from the jungle floor. "Ndakasi, "Mama, I'm right here. You're okay. You're safe." She doesn't move. He leaves her one of his old ranger shirts every morning. Every evening the staff finds her curled against it. It's the only thing she interacts with, the only part of her that still seems connected. The rangers rotate shifts. Andre refuses to leave. He checks her footage at night. The way she touches the glass, how she stares at the gate. Not toward the jungle, toward the humans, toward him. A psychologist working with the sanctuary volunteers an insight. Orphans like her imprint on the first figure they trust. For Ndakasi, that was Andre. When you took him away, she may have thought you abandoned her. Again. The team agrees to let him sit closer, still outside the enclosure, no physical contact, but within view. The next morning, Andre sits on the ground across the gate. No clipboard, no camera, no guards, just presence. He reads to her, an old training manual, worn and creased. He talks about when she used to wrestle with her friend Matabishi, about how she stole mangoes from his lunch pack and pretended she didn't, about how she tried to mimic a guard dog's bark and scared a tourist once. Still, no movement. Until the fourth morning. She lifts her head, just an inch, but enough. Andre sits up straighter, blinking away tears. She pushes herself up to sitting, and then she picks up a banana. The sanctuary staff rushes to alert the vet team, but Andre stays still, silent, letting her move at her own pace. She peels it clumsily, takes one bite, then another. "She's eating," someone whispers. "She's actually eating." The change is slow, but steady. Each day she eats a little more, moves a little more. She starts playing again, gently at first, rolling a toy tire with her foot. Clicking her tongue in that way only the rangers know means, "I'm fine." By the end of the week, she's grooming herself again, looking around, reacting to voices. And when Andre shows up the next day with another shirt, she ignores it, because she doesn't need it. She walks right up to the mesh, plants both hands on the ground, and locks eyes with him. He doesn't cry, he just smiles. That slow, soft smile only she ever brought out of him. That afternoon, she's cleared for release. When they open the gate to let her back into the main enclosure, she bolts. Not to the trees, not to the food bin, but straight into Andre's arms. She doesn't just hug him. She climbs up, wraps her arms around his neck, and leans her head on his shoulder like she's exactly where she belongs. The other rangers are speechless. One of them quietly snaps a photo. It won't go viral like the selfie did. But in some ways, it's even more powerful. Because it's not for the world, it's for them. The forest greets her with soft wind and open sky. After weeks of isolation, Ndakasi steps back into the sanctuary's main habitat, not slowly, not cautiously, but with purpose. She moves like someone who remembers what freedom tastes like and doesn't intend to lose it again. And the others notice. Matabishi, her closest companion, approaches first. For a moment, there's hesitation, like even he's not sure she's real. But when she bumps his shoulder with that familiar playful shove, he lets out a joyful grunt and tackles her in return. It's rough, loud, pure. She's back. The rangers watch from the observation deck. Andre stands with his arms crossed, trying to keep a professional face, but everyone can see the grin tugging at the corners of his mouth. "She's showing off at show," he says, laughing, "and she knows I'm watching." She is. She climbs higher than she ever has before, stuffs her cheeks full of figs, spins upside down from a low branch just to make the younger gorillas squeal in delight. She rolls down a muddy hill, then stops halfway just to slide the rest of the way like a child on a playground. But it's more than play, it's proof. Proof that the light inside her was never gone, only dimmed. The media starts asking again, is she okay? Will she return to the wild? What does her story mean? They don't get another viral photo, not yet. This time the sanctuary holds back. This time they let Ndakasi just be. But that doesn't mean she's forgotten, because the first selfie resurfaces. shared by an International Wildlife Foundation, paired with an update that simply reads, "Ndakasi smiled again today." The response is immediate. Donations flood in, not just for her, but for the park, for ranger equipment, for anti-poaching patrols, for baby gorillas still waiting to be rescued. One donor writes, "I came for the smile, I stayed for the story." Inside the center, Andre receives a letter from a school in Canada. A third-grade class drew pictures of Ndakasi. One girl wrote, "I didn't know gorillas could smile. I didn't know they could feel. Now, I want to protect them all." The team decides it's time, not for release into the true wild, not yet, but for deeper forest immersion, for longer treks, for independence. Ndakasi aces the training. She begins disappearing for longer stretches during the day, exploring, foraging, calling out across the trees with confidence. She still returns by nightfall, but she returns on her own. And with each return, she brings something new: bark, a beetle, a story only gorillas could tell. Andre documents everything, not with a lens but with notebooks. He writes like a proud father, detailing every milestone: first solo nest, successful; mimicked branch weaving from adult female; showed no fear during thunderstorm, curious instead of distressed; and one entry circled in red: she laughed today, loud, for a long time. But her most astonishing moment comes weeks later during a public conservation broadcast filmed quietly at the edge of the reserve. A small crew sets up with long lenses. The rangers want to capture footage of the troop for a worldwide education campaign. As the cameras roll, the troop appears, climbing, playing, grooming. Then from the canopy, she appears, Ndakasi. She pauses on a branch, looks down, spots the camera crew, and Andre standing just behind them. And she smiles, same angle, same spark in her eyes, same tilted head. One of the rangers stifles a laugh. "She's doing it again!" The crew captures it. This time, it's not a selfie. It's a full moment, real, raw, wild, and intentional, because in that split second, she looks directly at the camera and then past it, to him. The shot becomes the centerpiece of the new global campaign, Protect What Smiles Back. And suddenly, Ndakasi isn't just remembered for a viral photo. She's remembered for what came after: the recovery, the joy, the connection that no sickness, no fear, no distance could ever erase. The camera crew is long gone. The press requests have stopped. But Ndakasi is still smiling. Not for headlines, not for selfies, for herself. Because this, the rustling canopy, the distant calls of other gorillas, the scent of wild figs drifting through the air, this is her world now. It's been over a year since the scare, since she lay curled in a quarantine room with only a shirt and a memory to hold on to. But if you saw her today, swinging high through the forest corridors with effortless grace, you'd never know. The sanctuary team watches from a ridge. Andre stands a few feet back, arms folded across his chest. She's far enough now that he can't see her expression, but he knows her body language by heart. "She's showing off again," he says, grinning. "I taught her well." She moves with confidence. She disappears into trees for hours at a time. She returns with new scratches, new stories, new signs of living. And then, one afternoon, she doesn't come back. Not at sunset, not by midnight. The team stays calm, but alert. She's capable, strong, a survivor. Still, the night feels heavier without her nearby. Just after dawn, she returns, muddy, wild-eyed, radiating joy, and not alone. Two younger gorillas trail behind her, mimicking her every step. They playfully pull at her feet, dodge behind her when startled, and follow her back into the trees like siblings chasing their hero. The staff can't believe it. "She's mentoring," one whispers. "She's becoming a leader." Ndakasi, the orphan who once wouldn't let go of her dying mother, who once nearly faded into silence, is now guiding others, protecting them, teaching them what was once taught to her, by rangers, by experience, by love. Andre doesn't say anything. He just smiles. Not the soft smile he gives her. This time, it's pride. Full, unfiltered pride. Back at the ranger outpost, he keeps a photo above his desk. The original selfie, the one that changed everything. But next to it, there's another frame now. A shot from the education campaign. Ndakasi in mid-laugh, wild hair swirling as she hangs from a vine. No glass, no fence, no fear. He looks at them both every morning, and every time he does, he thinks the same thing. She never needed the spotlight. She needed the forest, the chance, the family, and someone to believe she was more than a photo. Outside the park, the world hasn't forgotten. Kids still send drawings. Scientists cite her in behavioral studies. Poaching arrests spike in the region thanks to increased awareness and funding tied to her viral fame. Her story has ripple effects. New ranger recruits mention her name in their interviews. International donors ask, "Is this where the selfie gorilla lived?" And when people learn the whole story, not just the smile, but the scare, the survival, the comeback, they're moved not just to care, but to act. And maybe that's her greatest gift. Not the pose, not the fame, but the gentle, undeniable reminder that animals like her don't just survive. They feel, they grieve, they trust, they remember, and they come back. One morning, during a quiet trek deeper into the forest, a young ranger hears rustling above. He looks up and spots her, Ndakasi, stretched across a wide fig branch, watching the sunrise through the leaves. She doesn't climb down, doesn't pose. She just lifts her head, breathes in the golden air, and closes her eyes like she's home. Because she is. If Ndakasi's story moved you, do something. Speak up. Look closer. Don't assume a smile means safety. Somewhere right now, another life waits for a second chance. Be the reason they get it. Subscribe for more real animal stories that restore faith, ignite change, and remind us what love, freedom, and wildness truly mean. Share her story. Inspire someone. Comment below. What moment hit you hardest?